I was being told by people close to the club and the first team that if the players are going to turn on anyone this time, it's not going to be the manager. They're going to go above that and they're going to throw executives under the bus. I don't know, but not Ten Hag.
Watching Manchester United at the moment, I think I'm much happier seeing... We've not played for 90 minutes yet.
No.
But you are seeing glimpses of the football that Erik Ten Hag wants to play. You see moves that go through the whole team. I think Lisandro Martinez, your mate Carragher, got that so wrong. I think he's... Not only is he very good defensively...
Wouldn't be the first time.
But also, with the ball at his feet, is like an extra midfielder for us. He's able to pass the ball through the lines. I think he's been a huge addition to the team. And it just generally feels like we're building something and moving into the right direction. I'm not going to get carried away at any point and think, oh, we're going to do this or that this season. But we're heading in the right direction. And I think we need to enjoy it.
The manager's impressed me, I have to say. I think he comes out of that transfer window, which was an absolute shocker. The handling of Ronaldo, the handling of Maguire, even Luke Shaw coming back in at the week.
Looked good the other day.
Even Luke Shaw coming back in, and to be fair, doing that and bringing him back in. Handling the 4-0 defeat at Brentford the way in which he did that week. I think I have to say he's
very good in the press.
He's pretty impressive, I think.
He's very good in the press and the way he handles the press and speaks with them. You guys would have experienced it a little bit more, but I always feel he's got the right answer. Sometimes you used to get a United manager, things would be going well and they'd say something and you go, well, what was that? Why did he say that? Well, who's he having a dig at there and stuff? And you haven't really seen that from Erik Ten Hag. It's all about the football. It's all about building the squad. I am worried by when the financial results came out, the Richard Arnold that we're all talking about, there's not going to be any signings in the next window or maybe in the next... And that's worrying me a little bit because we need to continuously build. No, there isn't. And I think we need to continuously build. If we want Ten Hag to be a success, we can't just rely on what we have at the moment. Yes, we've got some good youngsters coming through, but we need to continue to back him and give him the support and give him the signings. And it's clear we still need one or two. I think Christian Eriksen's a fantastic signing. One of the best bargains we've had since Schmeichel's a couple of $100,000. You know, I haven't seen us sign someone that good.
Henrik Larsson was a free transfer.
Henrik Larsson, but he only there for a few months.
Yeah.
Erik Ten Hag, press conferences, how are you finding him? Obviously, you're dealing with him on a weekly basis.
Yeah, I'm impressed, as Adam says. I mean, in pre-season, we were away, obviously, in Bangkok, Thailand and Australia, and we'd heard from the Ajax journalists, listen, he doesn't really give that much away. And certainly the first sit-down we had with him, we spoke to Melissa Reddy a little bit. She'd done him with Sky, and his first answer was so far so good to like a question that was like quite long and wanted a bit of exposition. Actually, he was all right with us. I don't know if that was because the cameras were off or he'd warmed up. And then since that point, I do feel like he's become more comfortable in his position and also wanting to express what he's trying to get from his players and send a few little messages, in what he's saying to other players. He doesn't sort of shirk calling them out, but he doesn't do it in a way perhaps like Ralph Rangnick would do, where he could do it because he was only there as an interim basis. He obviously has to bring them with him on this sort of journey. But no, I've been quietly impressed with it. I mean, even after the game on Sunday at Goodison Park, I sort of asked him a pretty open-ended question about Anthony, and his answer was, mainly positive, but also, no, he's got stuff to improve. He mentioned specifically defensive work, which I think is something that has been flagged. Also, as Paul Scholes mentioned, the kind of, does he cut in on his left foot too much? And he said, well, no, we have worked on it at Ajax. He can cross with his right foot, but clearly that still needs more work. So it's kind of detailed stuff that I think I quite like.
He also recognises the human side. I read an interview with McTominay the other day, and I think one of the things that Van Gaal and Mourinho, they were always stick but no carrot, and it was like, come on, you've got to realise that some of these lads, going through it sometimes, and you have to deal with different pressures of playing for Man United. And I think I was glad to hear that the human side of things, how's your family? Easy things to do, easy wins, but you keep people on side doing that. And then when you are calling them out in the press, they know that actually this guy's is there for me, he's got my back, so maybe what he's saying is true. The one thing I was disappointed with, you mentioned it there, he's handled the Ronaldo thing so well. And then we got like Rio and Kido coming out. I love them both, but it's like you're putting this additional pressure on him to play Cristiano Ronaldo when actually we're a much better team without Ronaldo at the moment. And it hurts me to say it, because I love Ronnie, he's the greatest player I've ever seen, but we are a better team without him leading the line.
You've seen Messi play, sorry.
Ten Hag seems comfortable with that, though, I think. I think he's OK with that external noise.
You know what it is? It's like you don't expect it from people that should have the club. Like, you should be able to see that United are moving in the right direction. Why do you need to drag
But
this?
they've also got that relationship, right, with Ronaldo, where they want to defend him.
I think they genuinely think that there isn't a Manchester United centre forward at this moment in time who will score more goals than Ronaldo and who will do better than him.
But United will score more goals with
as a collective,
a different centre forward, I think. And I think
Martial.
it's a shame he's injured all the time, but we've seen 4 halves of football from Anthony Martial. He's got 3 goals, 2 assists, and he's bringing all these players into play. I just rather see us focus on the collaborative rather than always going for the easy headlines, and because that's what United have done well of avoiding over the last couple of months, you know what I mean? And you just know as soon as a result goes wrong or a few go wrong, which it will, because we're still learning, it's going to be up and down. You just know they're going to be out again.
That's part of the course of Ronaldo, though, isn't it? If he's there, you're going to get that. So I think you have to.
But he does seem to be
brings it,
handling things quite professionally himself. Like, he doesn't seem to be being a distraction, which...
He's changed, hasn't he, Ronaldo? I think certainly when the window was still open and he wanted to leave, I think he's, the Champions League scoring records and maybe even winning it, that's in his mind, for sure. I think he was a difficult character around Carrington, sort of perhaps cutting a bit of an isolated figure. I think since the window closed, he's kind of switched his mind a bit more onto, right, well, I'm here now. I've got to,
It's not World Cup to prepare for. I think he'll be selfish in thinking about that.
He will be now. I mean, his focus for that will be massive. But he did say, didn't he, a couple of weeks before the transfer window ended, that you'll hear the truth in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Has that ever come to you, or has his team ever come to you with that?
Well, you've not gotten over that? Coming out with him? Or
you need him on, get him on Monday Night Football or after the game. Get him in the studio.
We don't know what happens behind the scenes, so maybe it's another situation that's been quite well handled by Erik ten Hag. And from an outsider's perspective, and I know the hierarchy at Man United don't ever really get much credit, but it seems to be a really good appointment so far, an encouraging appointment of ten Hag. They tried to go the biggest name in football with Mourinho, and Van Gaal was a big name within the managerial world. David Moyes, a recommendation of Sir Alex Ferguson. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, it seemed more a marriage of convenience. And then Ralph Rangnick, let's go fashionable. When I was reporting on the stories around the managerial pursuit, the fans were resoundingly in favour of Erik ten Hag. And we shouldn't underestimate the knowledge of the public and how much research goes on these days. A lot of people had watched his Ajax team and his way of coaching. We'd heard a lot from people who had worked with him, under him, around him. He was in the Bayern system when Pep was first-team manager. And I just look at the decisions that have been made so far. I look at the response to adversity after the Brentford defeat where, I was being told by people close to the club and the first team that if the players are going to turn on anyone this time, it's not going to be the manager. They're going to go above that and they're going to throw executives under the bus. I don't know, but not ten Hag. And I was like, that was a strange thing to hear. And then when a couple of days later, stories came out, I think it was via Laurie, that he had actually done the running session with
on
the
Sunday.
Players. He had gone into the trenches with them. He hadn't just sent them on a session. And it's those little things that have built this bond early doors. And you're seeing a rebirth by the looks of it. Again, early days from Marcus Rashford. And you talk about the striker position. But actually, if he starts to deliver and is better for the chemistry of the whole team, then maybe United will be better as a collective. And I think that all comes down to Ten Hag so far. However, I would say that he will want more players in to fulfil his vision and his aim. And he's not done in that transfer market. No. And I think that's going to be crucial. You mentioned
look what they tried to do to him in the summer. Before we had those few bad results, they wanted Arnautovic and Rabiot and all that. And then they're very reactive. They're never proactive. Forget that. And that's the problem. Yeah. They never will be proactive.
He was searching for character. And if the target was the wrong one, then
it's a big couple of weeks, though, isn't it? United have got Newcastle,
so busy these next couple
Chelsea,
of weeks,
I think Tottenham, is it?
Yeah.
Newcastle, Chelsea, Tottenham in the next 3
weeks. Those 3 games are huge.
They're huge games, those. And I think that'll define sort of the mood going into the World Cup period for United. But there's no doubt that, and it's something I want to ask you about, because certainly a month or 2 ago, the ownership, the Glazer out stuff was huge at that time. I think the actual
We've got Doc coming, by the way.
I think the fact that Manchester United didn't play for 4 weeks actually was helpful. Didn't have that league game for 3 or 4 weeks. Do you think that? I know there is still the protests. I know there is still the anger from the fans, but it does seem to have sort of quietened down a little bit at this moment. But the anger's still there underneath, isn't it?
The protests have been every single home game.
Yeah.
So inside the ground, obviously, everyone's behind the manager. There'll still be the anti-Glazer chants, and long may they continue until they're gone. But obviously, the fans are happier with the team, so it seems, the press report on it less and all these kind of things. The protests still happen every single game, and hats off to the organisers.
There was a banner in the Goodison Park away end on Sunday.
Oh yeah, I know they're still going on. I'm not saying it just seemed the noise is less. Obviously,
because fans are happier. Obviously, I think it seems like a happier place to be, but that's still there. And I think if the manager's not backed in the transfer windows and he's not given the support that he needs, then there'll be even further protests. And
that's the big thing coming up, isn't it? As you've touched on, the investor call, they made it very plain that they spent over budget in the summer, and I think they did react to the bad results, and they thought we need Erik ten Hag to work. This is exactly that. And we need to work now. So we can't sort of buy a player that can't go straight into the team. So that's why Casemiro came in, experienced. Anthony was one that obviously Erik ten Hag very much pushed for. So, but that then means that in January, I don't know, I'd be surprised if they spend
we need a striker because we can't rely on
those bids for Casemiro and Anthony went in 24, 40 hours prior to the Liverpool game, where they thought that ultimately you'd been beaten 4-0 against Brentford, Liverpool coming to Old Trafford, that was going to be the sort of graveyard game.
But then obviously, that impressed me as well, because people were talking about De Boer and stuff, and I was thinking, oh my.
Yeah,
I never ever felt like that, but you knew the wave of pressure was coming if we were going to lose 3 on a spin.
That's why I admire ten Hag. He's clearly got resilience. He was obviously, he must have been feeling that, but he sort of stuck to his principles.
He did.
And the running thing, I think, is a great little story, because it's kind of, as a manager, I feel like certainly in the initial stage of taking over a club, you kind of might need to do something a bit mad.
But that could have gone badly wrong as well. That type of gimmick, it could have been seen as a gimmick.
Yeah.
If he'd lost against Liverpool, could have gone badly wrong, couldn't it? It was a risk, but it paid off.
Varane's huge as well. I try and look at it at the positive side and add in Varane in there. Obviously, who he's replaced was going through a bad time at the time. Harry Maguire hasn't got the form at the moment, and could argue might not be good enough, but Varane is just a class above everybody, and I think he's really improved this season. He managed him well in the summer, bringing him back. He didn't rush him into pre-season training, and I think he's getting the best out of him at the moment.
And credit, that was a good piece of recruitment. It was an opportunity that Real Madrid probably weren't too dissatisfied with, but when fit, United have got themselves one of the best centre-halves in the world. But we shouldn't sort of paper over the cracks of certain recruitment issues. That's been a theme of what we've talked about today, because the Antony signing, from pretty much everyone you speak to, could have been done months earlier for far lower cost. And when you say that the money's not there for the signings in the upcoming window, then that sort of expenditure, Casemiro's deal, people say around up to £80 million all in and with everything included, for a player that Real Madrid were quite content to move on. I thought he was a class act.
So we could have saved the money and got Hakpo or whoever else who wanted.
I think one of the most fascinating situations going forward, John Murta, the team around him, Richard Arnold as the new chief executive, is how they manage these markets, because they literally cannot keep affording to spend that level of money.
Right, let's finish off on United like we have with the other teams. Where are they finishing? Heart or head?
I think we'll finish in the top 4.
Top 4.
I'm more confident in Ten Hag getting. Like, if we have a bad result, which still happen because it's going to be up and down, I'm confident in the ability to recover and not let it knock us or affect us. So I think we'll get results. But if there's an continuous injury to Anthony Martial, and what happens with Ronaldo after the World Cup, that could cause, because we haven't got an out-and-out striker. I think Rashford's, all his goals may have come from the left, or when he's played with Ronaldo or Martial. So I think we'll need a striker. I wouldn't mind Ivan Toney, Bring him in, man.
Good shout.
Get him on your
United.
course.
No, I don't want an explanation on United from a City fan to be 5th or 6th.
Yes.
All right.
Do you want an explanation why? Or?
Yeah, he wants one now.
No.
Because the other teams are better. That's the simple answer.
It just come down to that, doesn't it? Who drops out then?
Yeah,
City,
I think Chelsea better.
Arsenal were all sort of thinking they might maintain it. Maybe Arsenal then. Tottenham, Conte. I know they're not playing that great. It's Chelsea,
Liverpool, and
United.
So who's in your top 4 then? Because you said City, Arsenal.
I think Chelsea possibly. I'm a big fan of Potter. Yeah. I think he'll need a while to get settled there, and I think Liverpool possibly miss out. And again, I'm being super optimistic.
So
United and Spurs
you're saying City, Arsenal, United.
United top. City.
Right, Laurie.
I think they might just miss out because the squad depth, if you peel away some of the crucial... If Christian Eriksen gets injured, for example, I think that really changed... He's played basically every game. I think that changed the dynamic of what the team can do.
Would that be an underperformance, or would that be expected with the money that's been spent?
I wouldn't mind fifth.
You think fifth's acceptable?
If we show room for improvement, and you never know, you could go and win the Europa League or something. But I wouldn't panic if we didn't get top 4, because this guy, I think we finally got the guy. We just need to give him time.
Yeah.
Like, look what we were talking about Arteta.
There's good managers everywhere, isn't there? That's the thing. Like, they really are. And by the way, you noticed Ten Hag, Arteta, Pep's boys, proteges.
Oh, I knew someone was going to say something like that.
It's true. It's still true.
But you might want Arteta back when Pep's gone.
Pippa, Paul, United. Not that you care that much.
No. Oh, do you care? I care massively that Manchester United fall flat on the face. Fifth. But that's predicated entirely around Liverpool getting back to a sort of similar level. Yeah. Honestly, I think it's a bit of a crapshoot between Spurs, whether Potter can stabilise Chelsea consistently enough, and then Manchester United. It should be a close shot for the top
originally, I thought it would be fourth would be between Chelsea, Arsenal, and United, and now I'm going more towards it's between Chelsea, United, and Liverpool for that fourth spot.
Yeah, I think it feels like that. Yeah.
Pippa?
I can't quite call it from what I've seen so far this season. There's so much room for improvement. I know they can improve. I want to say fifth, but I get that to Liverpool. So I think maybe the same position as last
Sixth,
year.
then?
Yeah.
Sixth.
Funny that, because we beat you this season.
Oh, wow. One.
David, to finish up on United.
I think the money is all relative these days, and Liverpool spent up to 100 million on Darwin Núñez, and we're not sort of asking that question of where should they finish based on that. And therefore, I think it's going to be an improved season for United, a step in the right direction. I think they may just be in that mix with Liverpool slightly outside the top 4, 5th, 6th. And so, the current trajectory, and I'll be proved completely wrong, is maybe United just missing out on the top 4, but having a better season that keeps them on this positive path.